Tom. Tom,
Yeah.
tell us what you do for the band.
So I'm the singer and rhythm guitar player that's the stage side of things. On the back end, I do uh, myself and Jake do most of the music writing, and I do a small bit of the lyrical work. Most of the time, that's Jake,
Okay.
and I also do all the production. I did all the recording and producing, and all the technical side and mixing and things like that. So.
You did all the recording. Did you guys record this one yourself?
Yes, I had a studio with a friend of mine, Sasha Laskow, who's used to be in a band called Divinity.
Okay.
He's got his own band now, but he does a lot of production with some pretty big names now. And so him and I sort of teamed up. I did most of all the raw tracking and the pre-mixing, and then I sent it to him to do all the mixing.
Great
Yeah,
job. Holy shit, that is awesome.
cool.
I honestly wouldn't have suspected. It sounds extremely professional. Very, very well done. So thumbs
Awesome.
up.
Yeah, it took a while for that. I'm sure we could have saved about a year's worth of work if I sent it to somebody, but yeah.
Then you've got the pride of your own accomplishments too, though, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the first album was all me as well, and I just definitely wanted it to make it sound better. So
Nice, nice.
yeah,
So Viathyn, I'm reading,
yeah,
short for Leviathan, or at least inspired by.
yeah. There was 1,000 bands named that, so we sort of just took off that section and wanted something. Honestly, the real thing behind it was we just wanted sort of a made up word that if you search it, that's pretty much all you get was our band. So
Okay, that's good
that's really
reason.
the motivation behind it.
Reading in the bio, it says progressive, melodic, grandiose, innovative, and emotional. Just sort of encompassing that in the name Viathyn. In all honesty, from my exposure to Cynosure, is that how I pronounce it?
Cynosure.
Cynosure.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think I could come up with five better adjectives to really describe the music.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It was purposefully done to really try and hit all those marks. I mean, again, maybe another reason why it took a while. We just really wanted to have a vibe of a lot of energy, but a lot of like ups and downs, and that's sort of the progressive side of it. That's probably the hardest thing to explain. Everyone sees progressive, and they sort of want like odd time signatures and weird. Now I don't know what progressive means to some people, but to us it was more like a progression in. I mean, that's why our songs are so long, and I find that, at least me personally, a lot of our songs, to me, the better parts are near the end, and because the song kind of progresses to the end.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's sort of the progressive side of it. But yeah, I mean, all those things kind of tick off a box of the music we like and wanted to try to smash them all together.
Well, I mean, listening to even take just one song for some people, that's like two or three put together. You
Yeah,
know.
and I know it's kind of not everyone's taste, and usually the reviews that we get, well, some of the reviews, I'm super open to people who don't like the music,
Yeah.
mostly because I like hearing what they think of it back, not just people who are like, yeah, it's awesome, but um, most of the people who might not like it just think it's kind of long and it's kind of hard to get your attention for 60 something minutes, but I don't know. My mindset is sort of I don't know a lot of people who sit down and listen to an entire album to soak it in. It's sort of like you got to be in the mood for it. So
Yeah.
my attack was sort of let's make long songs, and that way a lot of people listen on shuffle when our song comes on, and hopefully keeps their attention
You'll
for that
have
one song.
yeah, more airplay that way.
Yeah, hope so.
Well, I mean, I personally, I'm a fan of prog. So really, the more the better in some cases. Um,
Sweet.
yeah, and definitely, really, really digging the album. How does a song for Viathyn come about? What's your writing process like? And
A lot of
creation.
the times we, on our own, sort of, come up with a little riff or a progression, a melody, something that could sound like a chorus, and then we sort of get together and say, "Hey, check this out," and it usually inspires someone else to go, "Hey, that kind of sounds cool." Sometimes by real fluke of nature, it's in the same key or something that someone else has written, and then they kind of go together, and we start morphing it. It's very the best word I keep using for it is very organic. It's not very structured. We just sort of like riff things out until it sort of sounds like a song, and then we decide more on the structure after it's a little bit longer and say, is there parts that we really like that we want to do, 2 or 3 times over? Is there parts that we sort of want to ramp up? Is there a way to transition this that makes sense? And little things like that. We sort of glue it together. We never, well, not yet at least, we've never written a song to lyrics. Most of the lyrics come after the fact.
Yeah.
So all of the music's usually very just music driven. It's very, what sounds cool, what would be a good harmony over this, what's a good melody, and we just kind of riff things out and hammer it out quite, each song and each jam at a time. We just keep working on it until we're sort of satisfied. So.
Okay, nice. Resulting in a good product.
Yeah, I think down to the point of like we rehearse these things to record, and then we sit and record, and then once we actually hear the final product and layers, we'll go back and go, let's repeat this, or let's get rid of this part. And we've made, like, I wouldn't say massive changes, but we've made some pretty neat additions or subtractions even at the point of recording. I mean, that's the length of our songwriting process. It takes almost to the end of recording to be satisfied and go, okay, we need to let this go and actually put it to CD eventually. So
when you let yourself finalize it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta let go at some point, but I mean, that's how long it takes sometimes to write these songs. I'd say that a couple of them that came out a little quicker, at least for me, because Jake wrote them a little more on his own, was Cynosure for sure. The actual song Cynosure at the end, the very last one.
Yeah.
That's primarily all of Jake's work, because he sort of just had this flow, and we're really open to that. We're not married to saying like everyone has to input the exact amount. Right. He sort of just came with the song and it just sounded awesome, and we're just like, yeah, go with it. So nice. I think that one out of most of them was a little more just straightforward. He had it start to finish.
Wicked. So how's the album came out in October, was it 7th?
Yeah.
How's the reception been? You were mentioning some reviews there earlier.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't really want to guess a percentage, but probably the best reviews that we've got were this album for sure. They're all very, very good. We've had really no fence sitters. We've had a lot of people we usually get either really high out of, 10s or 5s, or people who don't like it, rate it low, but that's been probably only 2 or 3 out of the few dozen that we've got back. So the reception's been great.
Awesome.
So the review side and I guess what would you call it? Like the industry reception has been good, but more so the fans that have finally been able to buy it and pick it up and give us feedback are loving it. I think the best part of it is people who say, and it's sort of my feeling, is the people who say they've had to listen to it maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more times, and they're just getting more out of it and they can hear more. I love hearing that, or that they actually whistle some of the melodies, in their head because it's got stuck in their head, and that's something you always sort of wish you can achieve. So that's great to hear.
Definitely, those are great compliments. And I mean, I totally echo the sort of the depth of what you've got there. It's certainly something that, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to get it all or to absorb it all in the first listen.
For sure, and we know that going in, and we sort of take some of the reviews with a grain of salt. I'm sure some of these guys get hundreds of CDs in, they pop it in, listen to it once, get their first impression. That's great. I appreciate the people that take the time to really listen to it at least once, or if not a few times. So as much as I really like the reviews, it's usually the fans that kind of take the time and are able to listen to it more than once really get what we put into it, which is, sort of why we do it. And I mean, it's something we may change. I don't know down the road if we want simpler songs, at least maybe not the whole album just totally full with backing tracks and all these layers. And maybe we'll try and write a song that's a little thinner in a sense of layers. But, right now we're just sort of writing what we want to hear.
Yeah, well, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep writing what you want to hear. One of the things that I wanted to mention about, in terms of the reception of the music and my personal reception, I'm from Eastern Canada here in Halifax, and there's a lot of sort of ingrained Celtic and Scottish influence in some of the traditional music that's around here.
Yeah.
And being somewhat surrounded by that, and being a metalhead, I kind of got a little tired of that. And so I get this little underlying feeling of that whole folk metal a bit in some of your tunes, or at least in portions of some of the songs.
For
And I
sure.
think at first it might have struck a negative chord in me, but going back over it and over it, it's done very cleverly. Like you've got a melting pot of styles in there. So what I guess I'm getting at with this is like, tell me about the influences. What sort of brings you guys, or musically, what has brought you here?
Cool. Well, you made a good point. I mean, a lot of people will write kind of what's around them, and because you guys out there have that sort of influence, I maybe I'm wrong, but my opinion about being from Calgary is there isn't that influence. It's very, oil and gas industry. There's a lot of cover bands here. Everyone loves the Stampede, so there isn't that sort of root in some sort of um, folk or culture sound as much as other places. So we sort of had to find it more so in the bands that we liked, but also, I mean, myself and my brother, obviously, we're in the band. We have a strong European background. We're first generation Canadians. My parents are immigrants, so we grew up with a lot of like folk music of our heritage. Our bass player is Polish, and same thing. He's first generation, and he's got a bit of that as well.
Okay.
And some of the newest metal that I was getting while I was getting into metal. I mean, everyone grew up with their standard, Metallica, Iron Maiden, blah blah blah. But the stuff that sort of tweaked my interest was when I first heard something like, like a Fintroll or Inciferum or things like that. It was super folky, and I was like, wow, this is kind of like the stuff I grew up listening to, but it's metal, and I can sort of associate to it. So we never really wanted to play straight up folk metal. I think what we liked about it was sort of the more positive jauntiness of it, but not so much the, I guess, lack of a better term, the cheesiness of it, where you didn't really want to go down the sword swinging, singing about dragons. We actually, before we name a song, we usually have a lot of joke names so we can differentiate them, and we usually pick the very like over the top folky sort of name for some of them before they actually get their real names. But
Nice.
so I think that was way more evident in the first album. The second one, I think we just sort of focused on the melodies and parts that we liked. That's probably what people are hearing as the folk side of it. We actually were thinking more about less of a folk vibe this time around, but it's cool that it still sort of came through because we all really like that music. So, man, very cool.
Nice. Right on. All right, so you've got the new album. You've got the I noticed the guitar playthrough that's recently come out.
Yeah.
The I guess you said official CD release coming up in a few weeks in December. What else is on the forefront for Viathyn? What can we expect?
Nothing massive. We've been focused a lot on getting word out on this album. Doing as much promo and doing a few of the videos and things that we did.
Yep.
Now we're focusing on that CD release. Make sure we learn the songs. Execute that. It's in a way it's a little bit bad timing. I should say bad timing, but everything slows down around December anyway, so
Of course,
probably won't be doing much until the new year. But some of the bigger things, we definitely want to try and get more shows, but we also want to spread out further from Calgary. Calgary is a tough city to be in because it's really hard to get to the next major city without a bit of travel. So
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
it's got to it's got to be planned out a little bit, but we want to try to travel a little bit more to play a little bit. Our bigger goals, and another one is definitely a full-on music video. There's an awesome director in town called
Nice.
Doug Cook that does a lot of local music, that does awesome videos. He's such a good guy to work with, and he's very talented, and he's into our stuff, which is great. So it's just sort of timing that. We'll do a very cool video hopefully next year. And then some of the bigger goals, I think one of our main goals is to play a really cool festival. I mean,
Sweet.
Jake and I have been really loyal followers of the 70,000 Tons of Metal. Jake's been on all of them. We were on the inaugural one.
Oh wow.
We even got asked to play a pre-party show a couple years ago, but it's really hard to play in the States legally, so we weren't able to do that. But to get on the actual boat and play, that'd be a big one. We're big fans of the Prague Power Festival in Atlanta. There's a whole ton of festivals in Europe. If we can get on something like that, we don't have to do a major tour, but just to play a festival, that'd definitely be awesome for us.
A bit of a career goal.
Oh, big time. I mean, we all have day jobs. We're not looking to pack it in a van and do a 2-3 week tour. We're admittedly we're writing the music. We're kind of going with the flow, but we'll definitely do a big show like that if we can.
Sweet, wicked,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, how can my listeners follow you guys, keep in touch, and stay in touch?
Sure. All of our social media links are at Viathyn.com, but we're very active on like Facebook and Twitter. Those are probably the most that we're on. You can, again, back to our name, if you just Google us, you'll get pretty much anything to do with us. But yeah, Facebook is probably the one we use the most, and Twitter for sure.
It's a really smart way. Just going back to the whole, the name choice again. Choose something that's not used before. That's great.
Yeah, I think the only thing that pops up now is there's a couple. I've seen a couple World of Warcraft characters named after us, and I don't know if that's because of us or they just saw the name and thought it was cool. So.
Oh, hey, interesting.
Not necessarily us. I don't think any of us play World of Warcraft, but
seek
whatever.
Some rights or something. Who knows? Excellent. Well, Tom, that's about it for me. I want to thank you very much for joining me here.
No, I appreciate it. It's great. I appreciate the time.